It's Monday, August 21st, 2023, and this is episode 290 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. I'm Mark Duvall.
And I'm Dr. Mike.
Yeah, how are things going your way, Mike?
Oh, good. Mark, it's 95 here.
Uh-huh.
I've been doing yard work today, and all week it's supposed to be in the 90s and high 80s.
Oh.
And I assume that we're doing this podcast, you're in a boat right now, correct?
Well, the storm is just hitting us right about now. It's been raining all morning. Well, drizzling, I should say. Now it's actually raining, and supposedly the brunt of it is going to hit here pretty soon. It's more water than anything. I don't think the winds are going to be too bad, although we do live in a neighborhood with overhead power lines, etc. So if we suddenly have to stop recording, well, then we'll pick it up tomorrow. But for right now, we're doing okay. We've got power. We've got internet. Like I said, the water is the big thing. We have a couple of sump pumps in this house. You know, we kind of live on a hill here.
You're on a hill,
on a slope. So, you know, our property kind of goes downhill. And most of the water comes to us underground. You know,
it's down the hill.
It's coming down the hill. So we've got a crawl space there. We've got a sump pump in there. I'm down in kind of the basement area. We've got a sump pump here too. So I think we're going to be okay. But yeah, uncharted territory for us Southern Californians.
Right. Meanwhile, I have two sump pumps, and I've never used them since I've been here.
Oh, really?
So,
okay. Well,
yeah, all the houses do because, you know, basements. And we're kind of on a hill too. So, Well, 84 years without a hurricane. Now you got a hurricane. Once every 84 years, when the next one comes, you won't even remember this one.
That's right. And, you know, back then they didn't have warnings. We had a tropical storm warning as of yesterday.
Right.
So, this is uncharted. Even my folks, they were alive during the last one, but they were infants, right? So they don't remember.
Same with mine. Did the SCG&E call and warn you of that power might go out? And
I mean, we've been getting all sorts of warnings about, you know, tropical storm and flash flood warnings, that kind of thing.
They actually called my mom's house.
Yeah, you know,
I think because of elderly people, maybe they wanted to make sure they're prepared. If the power goes out, if they have anything they have to have.
You know, they probably have Sherry's phone number. So I'll check with her later, but she probably got some kind of warning. It's just my phone probably isn't on the account. So, I didn't.
Yeah, well, they called my mom on the landline, and said, hey, be prepared because, there's a good chance the power might go out if a tree falls or something. So, with elderly people, that's kind of important if they have needs that require
probably. I would
energy.
think that SDG&E, that's the power company here, I would assume that they just have a sweeping auto call to everybody. They wouldn't necessarily target elderly people because it really doesn't cost them any more to send out a message.
Yeah, well, they called on the house line, which is probably the line my dad gave.
Yeah, that's the line they have, right? Well, anyway, we're all safe here, and let's move on to gambling. So, any good gambling stories since we last met, Dr. Mike?
I have no good stories.
Okay. Well,
I've been a couple of times.
Yeah, just no luck.
Nothing to report.
I figured there wasn't anything terribly interesting because you never contacted me through text or anything. So
no, I would have contacted you immediately if anything good happened.
Well, I actually did some gambling that I wasn't expecting last time we spoke. I was just playing in my home game, and the guys were telling me about the San Diego Poker Classic, which is a series of tournaments that actually is just ending today. But they mentioned, hey, Mark, they've got an Omaha 8 tournament coming up. And so I kind of like, oh, really? Because that's not very common. You can find some Omaha 8 games here, but to find a tournament, Omaha 8 tournament, which is the one I played in the World Series of Poker, a couple of years ago, it's unusual. So I thought, I'm going to take advantage of this. So sure enough, I played in an Omaha 8 tournament here at Hamul Casino that's part of the San Diego Poker Classic. Now, as you know, Dr. Mike, the day of the tournament, it started about 2 o'clock. I drove to the wrong casino. I don't know how I got it into my head that it was at Sequan.
Well, you had Keno on your mind, and you knew that Hamul didn't have Keno, so you went to Sequan.
Bingo, you mean?
No, I mean Keno.
Oh, okay.
That's what was in your mind. Yeah, they don't have that air either. They do have bingo, but yeah, I mean Keno.
Yeah, I walked into Saquon, and it was pretty clear as soon as I walked in that something's not right. Where are the tables? Where are the people? And, I asked, and they kind of looked at me like, what? And then I realized, oh, no. And I called my friend David, who was at the tournament. It's like, I think I went to the wrong place. Well, luckily, they had...
I think I hurt myself.
Felt like an idiot. It was about a 20-minute drive to get to Hamul. Anyway, I got into the tournament. Re-entry through the first 8 levels, and each level was a half hour, and there were some breaks in there as well. So you could re-enter up until the 4.5 hour mark.
What do you get when you enter late like that?
The same. So, okay.
You get your initial starting stack?
Yeah. So it was a $300 entry, and the starting stack was $20,000. So no matter when you entered or re-entered, you'd get that $20,000. Now, for the first levels, that's not that big a deal. As you get closer, that 8 level, well, that $20,000, it's not getting you as much.
No, because you're going to get the blinds are so high.
Yes, exactly.
Did a lot of people seem to buy back in if they went out before that 8th level?
I wouldn't say a lot. Ultimately, there were 44 entries. So, no, I don't think that many did.
Well, $300, right?
Exactly.
It's not like it's $20 or something. Yeah. So
I start off the tournament great, built up a big stack, and then it just started dwindling, got into some trouble. After the 8th level, I actually had under my $20,000 stack. And one of the things you could do if you were under was to forfeit, not an add-on, but forfeit your stack, re-enter for $300, and then start at 20 again.
Yes.
And so I considered that, but it's like, $300 more dollars because I had
to do that.
14,000 in chips. I wasn't.
Well, and that's no guarantee. So you're going to get $6,000 more dollars.
Yeah.
That could disappear in the next few blinds.
Yes, it actually
you don't get a hand.
And then I'm out another
why would anyone do
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't. If I'd been real low, like 1,000 in chips, then of course.
Well,
I would
then
have done
maybe,
it right.
yeah.
But I decided, no, I'll hang on. And I was able to claw my way back. Mike, I can't tell you. I was texting you this whole time, so you didn't know.
150 text messages I counted.
I was on the brink so many times. And we figured that at the end of it, I was probably all in about 12 times.
Yeah, and you survived them.
And I survived. Now, going all in a limit split pot game, it's not the same as going all in a no limit Texas Hold'em tournament.
Right.
First
you
of all,
could be all in and not double your money.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's the split pot. So I may not win one way, but I'd win the other. And I was never all in desperation. I always had some kind of hand. Okay. And again, it's a limit tournament. So if you've got more than the initial bet, well, you can raise, but you can't just shove. So there were plenty of hands where I was not all in till the turn, even though I would have pushed my whole stack if I could have, because, I knew I was good. So it is a little
that can
different.
Work both ways for you.
Yeah.
That could hurt you and that could help you too.
Yeah, it definitely can. Right.
You shove all in, the guy quick calls you. It's like, oh crap. Yeah. This way you kind of fill things out a little longer.
So even though I'm saying that, I was in for my tournament life about 12 times and I kept winning. They started calling me the cockroach because I wouldn't die. So it was a lot of fun. When we got down to that final table, and I did make the final table and I did cash, they were good players. I mean, the play was certainly looser than when I was in the World Series of Poker. Right away, I could tell, okay, people are speculating with some pretty crappy hands here. Right. And that caught up with most of them. So they paid the top 6 places. I came in 4th for an $1,100 payout, so an $800 profit. I was very pleased with that based on, how many times I went all in, and just a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, I'll tell you what, on about your 50th or 60th text, you said it's going to be pretty hard to make the final 6.
Yeah, I did say that because I was down to like 7,500 chips.
Quote, and I told you, play your best poker.
Yep.
And evidently, that's what you did.
I did.
You kept surviving. Every time you said, well, here it goes, I would think to myself, well, the next text is going to be, I'm heading home. Mm-hmm. But the next text was always like, the first text you had 2,800 and the next text is, I got 8,000 now, or, some.
Yep. I didn't go on tilt. I constantly was thinking I can still win this. I made some mistakes. There's no question I made some mistakes. And I'd look back and think, my gosh, what was I thinking?
Right.
But yeah, I didn't let my emotions sort of take over. So that was good.
The robot in Mr. Mark took control.
I've kind of got a story about this. So there was this one player, we'll call him Bengals, because he had on a Cincinnati Bengals cap. That'll be the easiest way to describe him. So he was very cocky, and he was drinking a little bit and loved to throw chips around, and he was talking. Eventually, it kind of caught up with him, and his chip stack started going down, down, down. So there was this guy next to me, a very good player. I'll call him Beard because he had a big full beard. He was a good player. And this Bengals player was all in. And Beard was trying to decide whether or not to call him. And, it's not much of a call because, again, it's just a limit game. It's one more bet to call.
Right.
And Beard was thinking it over. And Bengals started berating him with, come on, how long do you need? This is a limit tournament. And Beard said, okay, yeah, no, I understand. And he eventually called. So it got all the way down to showdown. Beard revealed his hand, and I think there was another player who was also in, revealed his hand. And Bengals was just looking at his hand, not turning it over, trying to will a winning hand out of it, basically. He had clearly lost, right? If he had won, he would have flipped over. Yeah,
if you will all you want.
I'm thinking, I turned to Beard and said, oh my gosh, this guy was giving you a hard time about taking so long. And now, just turn over your cards, right? Look at what he's doing.
Right.
And Beard said to me, well, the guy's on tilt. We've all been there before. I understand. And I thought, wow, what a great attitude. I've got to remember that. Huh? Yeah. First of all, that is how you should approach the game because poker can be very frustrating and you can get a lot of personalities there that give you a hard time, et cetera. And I thought, that's great. He, even though it is kind of annoying that this guy's taken forever when he's clearly lost, he's taken that attitude. So that was a great story that came out of that for me.
Well, that's a guy who's got life by the handle, Mark. He knows what he's doing.
Well, and he was a good player too. He had obviously put a lot of time in. Yeah.
He's looking at things in the big picture. Well, everyone has their deal. Good for him. How'd he do?
He was one of the top three. I didn't find out how he finished, but he was at the final table with me. Yeah. And when I went out, it was down to three, I thought, very good players. Any one of them could have finished, but it was so late at that point. Here's the thing, Mike. I've talked about how I prefer cash games to tournaments. The game started at 2 p.m. We only had 15-minute breaks. We didn't break for dinner or anything. And when I left, it was well after midnight.
Oh, yeah, I know. I was up.
Yeah, I was keeping you up.
I was up waiting for your text, thinking to myself, come on, it's 2 a.m. here. I got to get up at 6 and go to work.
So that's a long day.
That is a long day.
So I did not stick around to see the end of it. But any three of these players that were left at the end, and Beard was one of them, could have won. They were all good players.
Well, I'm just going to assume he won. He deserved it.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. So anyway, thoroughly enjoyed that. And again, I'm not going to do it very often, basically because of the length of time. It's not so much the money so now.
Yeah, it's an investment. It's something you have to really want to do. I mean, you have to really love to do that, right?
Well, and it was a weekday, so I took the afternoon off from work.
Right.
So and that's another thing too.
You're probably tired the next morning.
Oh, yeah, I was, right? Hey, Mike, I'm having a pretty good year poker-wise.
Poker-wise?
This helps. I'm cleaning up at my home game. I know there are a couple of our home game players who listen, so thank you very much for an enjoyable year so far. I appreciate it. Keep coming.
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, you found your niche. It's poker.
Yeah. Well, speaking of poker, Dr. Mike, can you believe it? We're actually coming up on another one of our tournaments. The seventh semi-annual You Can Bet on That poker tournament is coming up on Sunday, September 3rd, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That is the Sunday before the beginning of the NFL season. Now, that is 2 weeks from the day that we're actually recording here. So again, we'd be scheduled to record on that Sunday. I think what we'll do, Mike, is we'll wait a day so that we can talk about the tournament. So our next episode will be at least 1 day late so that we can talk about the tournament and everything that happened.
The day after that is the holiday, right?
Yes, that's Labor Day.
Labor Day, yeah. So everyone should have Labor Day off.
Yeah, that's another nice thing. So they should be able to play. Yeah. So again, Sunday, September 3rd, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 10 a.m. Pacific Time. You don't need to register early for the tournament. There isn't a limit on the number of players who can play. And the reason we're mentioning this is because in the past, we've had a lot of players who have registered for the tournament, but then end up not showing up. But they're still taking up a seat. Now, even though they'll just be blinded off, it affects the way that players who do show up play. So you can register any time before the tournament starts. In fact, you can even register up until 20 minutes after the tournament starts. So there's no reason to register early if you're not sure you're going to play. And if you do register for the tournament and it ends up you can't play, please unregister. Okay, everything is still the same, 20,000 play money chips to register. And again, PokerStars gives you 15,000 chips every 4 hours. Just click on the free chips button on the PokerStars homepage. It is no limit Texas Hold'em. We're going to have 3,000 starting stacks. We will have hourly breaks. You need to be in our PokerStars home game group to sign up for the tournament. And if you've played in one of our tournaments before, you're already in that group. If you're not yet in our group, send us an email at youcanbetonthat@gmail.com with your email address and your PokerStars username. We need an address and a username to add you to our group. If you don't yet have a PokerStars username, just go to pokerstars.net, download their Play Money app, and sign up. It doesn't cost a thing. First place will be a $100 Amazon gift card. Second place, a $50 card. Third place, a $25 card. And also a $25 Amazon gift card to each of the players that eliminates me and Dr. Mike. It will probably be about 4 hours if you make it all the way to the end, and we will see you then. And again, our next episode will be a day late. Anything to add, Dr. Mike?
Well, new ground rule. Don't get upset if you're not on the table with me. Because, you know, I know everyone wants that easy $20.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's all random. So,
yeah, that is another thing. You may or may not end at the table with me.
And if you're on the table with me, I mean, you got a great shot at $20.
$25, Mike. You know, don't short.
Yeah,
it's $25. Yeah, so
you got a good shot at $25. Yeah. Well, and the $5 you have to slip back to me for.
Oh, I see. It's collusion.
Let me take you out. Yeah.
I didn't realize that. All right. So hopefully we'll see you all then. Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first, youcanbetonthat.com, and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. All right. Let's move on to some voicemails. First up is Kyle.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Kyle calling in from Salt Lake. I haven't made a call to you guys in a while. It would have been after my last gambling trip, which was last summer. But after you hear this trip report, if we can agree, I should have just stayed home this time. So I went to Mohegan Sun in Connecticut a few weeks ago, did a $15 craps table, and immediately started winning. Won a couple $100 from this one guy shooting all the right numbers. But being from Utah, I only get to gamble maybe once or twice a year, so I wasn't just going to play for half an hour and then leave. Well, here's my first mistake. The momentum really started to shift. He 7'd out, then next few shooters, including myself, 7'd out. I was down to almost zero before I knew it. And so I used my last $50 on 10-play video poker, which I almost never play. So I don't know if I was just in a bad mood and wasn't concentrating, and I'll probably get killed for saying this, but I went and threw away a dealt full house, and luckily I was playing 25 cents at basically the bare minimum, so I missed out on about $40 because of a total brain misfire on my part. Then I played really angry for the next few minutes before I just lost what little money I had left. So I know if I was playing a higher denomination and did that, I would have probably gotten into the fetal position right there and cried. So let this be a lesson to everyone. Look at your cards carefully. Don't be like me. Just wasn't my day and just got to move on. So there you have it. Still listening to every show you guys put out. Thanks for all that you do. My next call will likely be in November when I head to Vegas. I'll be at one of the U2 shows at the very ominous Tier Arena are opening soon. So if you're interested in a report from there, I'll check back in November. Okay, thanks.
All right, yeah, give us a call back, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm very interested in hearing about that, how that is inside.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Kyle is going to grow a beard for his next trip.
Maybe. See, great advice. Not just look at your cards, but don't play angry.
Don't play angry.
We've all done it. We will be doing it in the future at some point, I'm sure. And
not me, Mark.
It's a good point, right? Kyle's thinking, well, I came all this way. I don't get to gamble that often. What am I going to do, right? I came to gamble, so I'm going to gamble. And that is a little risky, right? Maybe take a break, get something to eat before you just immediately jump back into it, if you have the time, because that's good advice.
Well, that's like Lynn's always telling me, why don't you just stay a couple hours? I'm like, because I drive 2 hours there and 2 hours back.
Yeah.
That's 4 hours. I don't want to just stay for 2 hours. It's not like I'm flying a plane to Vegas. I have to drive.
It can be easy to, let's say you're Delta Full House. It can be real easy to not hold any cards. You sort of get kind of blinded. Hey, a full house. And then you just hit the deal button and all the cards go away. You've got to remember that. I remember seeing somebody online who had 4 to a royal and they started recording and all right, here we go, 4 to a royal. Let's see what happens. And then forgot to actually hold the cards. Right?
Oh, God.
So, be careful in situations like that.
It'd be easy too, to just see the three cards, right? Oh, I got trips. Great. Hold them and then draw. Right.
Yeah. Good advice, Kyle. All right, next up is Caleb. The audio drops out a couple of times, so just be aware of that, but you'll be able to tell what he's talking about here.
Hi, this is Caleb from Nebraska, first-time caller. I was just listening to your last episode, and somebody called in about their experience at the Horseshoe in Baltimore, and I was there last summer and experienced playing blackjack. It was the only $5 tables I could find were 6 to 5, and one of the gentlemen kept on wanting to play my hand for me and kept saying, "You're playing for the table. You should be, don't hit on that. Don't take that card." And I kindly told him a couple times that it's my hand and I'll play how I want and how basic strategy says to play. But table, and I said, "Well, if you want this seat closest to the dealer, then you can have it." And he said, "No, he's one of those guys who claimed to have won thousands upon thousands of dollars playing blackjack." And he just continued to tell me how to play my hand. So finally I just cashed out and walked away because he just rubbed me the wrong way, and I walked out of the casino from there. I wanted to call and give that update that I don't recommend the Horseshoe Casino in Baltimore at all. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Hey, maybe this was the same guy that was harassing Ethan and his friend Todd, who called in a little while ago. Same casino, Horseshoe, Baltimore. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, probably some regular. You know what you do to a guy like that? You just ask him, how much am I going to have to give you if you just walk away and I never look at you again? That's what I do. Just how much is it going to cost me? Because he's not going to leave on his own, right?
Yeah.
So he must have a dollar amount in his head.
Well, I'm not giving him any money. I might ask him that.
Well, yeah, I might ask him. I'm certainly not giving him any money. That's what I'd ask him.
Just ask if maybe he could bankroll you. Just say, "Oh, you know what? I really appreciate this advice. Let me play with your money." Right. So that, you're really invested in this. Thank you.
And since I'm doing a large portion of the moving the chips, I'll take 80% of the winnings and you take 20. And if we don't win, well, you lost.
Yeah. Maybe try that, Caleb, Ethan, Todd. Good luck to you.
Right.
All right. Next call.
Hey, guys. It's Andrew up near L.A. I called a few weeks ago about chopping pots in poker tournaments, and I want to say I appreciate the feedback from you guys and from some of the listeners. I'm on my way home once again from a poker tournament. Didn't do as well this time, but that's okay. I wanted to raise a point of order. A couple people have been calling in regarding the Buffalo slot machines. Isn't that the one when you walk by, it goes, "Buffalo!" I feel like when you call in and you mention that slot machine, you have to say it like that. Otherwise, what are you even doing? Anyway, it's up to you guys if you want to enforce that rule. That's on you. But I think when you call in, you should say it that way. I also wanted to say, the very first time I called you guys, I told you guys that I got a royal flush on a video poker, and you guys later clarified that it doesn't count if it's on a multi-play machine. So I would like to rescind my Royal Flush. I have not yet got a Royal Flush, but I will one day. Anyway, one more thing before I go. You guys want to know what my uncle's favorite slot machine is? Buffalo!
All right. Well,
I love it.
Listeners can yell out Buffalo when they're talking about the machine. I don't think we'll enforce the rule.
I don't know. That. I'm kind of thinking we should.
Really?
You know how I get a kick out of weird stuff like that.
And how are we going to enforce that?
We just refuse to play them.
All right, yes.
You beep them out, Mark. You just
bleep it out. That's right, if they don't scream it out. All right. I don't think I'm going to be doing that. We'll see as calls come in.
There's that one machine that sounds like a foghorn. Have you ever heard that? Yeah,
I don't know.
It does that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I hit Time and Joe a while back, and it's right by the craps table. And I asked the dealer, does that ship ever actually pull into port, or what's the deal? Because, it sounds like you're right at the dock.
I like the Screaming Eagle.
That too. Great. That screech, that's lovely.
Yeah,
do you think the manufacturers do that just so people will go see what's going on over there?
Sure, of course. Yeah. Oh, there's an eagle in the casino.
Yeah. What would be the best sound to have on a slot machine? Really draw people over.
I don't know. Bronx cheer. Maybe.
Cheer.
I don't know.
Crying baby.
Crying baby. Yeah, that'll be good.
That's just Joe. He threw away his Royal Flush.
All right. So when does a Royal Flush count? We've talked about that on the show. I think we've landed on if you're risking money, and it's not, just some app that you're playing on your phone for fun. You're actually risking money and you get a Royal Flush, multi-line, nickel, whatever. It counts. They all count.
Okay.
Yeah.
They all count.
Yeah.
It's a sad state of affairs in this world when you and I are setting the standard for anything.
Well, I think we have to say that they all count, because if we ever hit one, it'll probably be, some nickel,
some weird thing.
100 line,
right.
So we better say everything counts.
Okay. That's a good idea, Mark. Yeah, they all count. We're good with that.
All right. So this next call talks about stadium gaming where you have a real craps table where somebody is rolling the dice. And I thought maybe we'd preface it with an explanation of what that actually entails. And I'm just going to read an email that we got from listener David. He provided a pretty good description of these tables. So there is a mini craps table at the front of the stadium gaming area. A dealer stands at the table. There is a single player console situated next to the craps table. The gambler at this console is the shooter. After making all the bets on the console, the shooter turns around and actually gets the dice and rolls them on the table. The dealer monitors the throw and types in dice results onto his iPad screen. Then you, the player, turn back to your console to see the resulting wins or losses or make adjustments for the next roll. This shooter continues to be the shooter until he sevens out. At this point, if someone wants to be the new shooter, you have to cash out and switch consoles with the new shooter. The shooter must use the single console near the craps table. So there you go. We've never actually seen this before. I know some of our listeners have played on this. I think Tim Lawson has played in this situation. So kind of an interesting situation, but the key is that you actually switch to that console right by the table when you become the shooter. So let's listen to this call. The audio is a little rough, but it gets better as the call goes on.
Little story about craps and slot machines. I'm a new player living in Maryland, and I've played at the Horseshoe in Baltimore. And I've played some, whatever you call stadium craps, where you have a console and somebody is actually shooting. And I played that for a while, and I won a few bucks, and I cashed out, and I went over to my favorite slot machine, the one with the 3 rows of, I guess they're firecrackers. And I found that if you wait a while and they all fill up and people don't play it anymore, you start pumping money in and make your weights higher. Sometimes you get lucky, which I did, and I got a hand pay. It was the first time I've ever had that happen. And last time I ever wanted to have it took forever, and now I got to pay taxes, but that's beside the point. So I said, I made all this money, so I'm going to go back over to the craps table. So I went over there, and I put a couple $100 in, and I'm rolling a little bit, and nothing much is happening. And then this guy gets on the heater, and we're making a lot of rolls, and I'm making a couple of bucks. And all of a sudden, he has made a lot of numbers, and then he just picked up his money and left. And the problem is that it's stadium craps, so they needed another shooter. But the problem is that my money is locked up at this machine that I'm playing. I'm the only other guy that can shoot. So I said, well, I've got all these bets that are locked up, playing the pass line and playing the come, so I could only take down my odds. I can't transfer it over to the new machine where you're going to play to roll. So I have to just leave it back there and then shoot from the pass line as a new shooter. So I start to roll, and then the dealer says, hey, don't you want to put money on the other machine? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess so. So I'm running back and forth between the two machines, trying to place the bets in time before the roll. And at one point, I got so frustrated, I just threw my hands up in the air and just running back and forth, yelling like, wait, I've got to come and make this bet. Hold on. And it was pretty funny. The bets that I had left on the other machine, I finally gave up trying to run back and forth. When I got back to the machine, I had actually doubled my money without doing anything. So that was fun.
All right. So, yeah, kind of an interesting story. This wouldn't have been an issue if he didn't have come bets that were still unresolved, right? You know, suddenly he has to become the shooter, but he can't just cash out his machine and go to the terminal right by the craps table because he still had outstanding bets on that machine. Interesting. They worked through it, yeah.
Well, this version of craps sounds like the adult version of like musical chairs or something.
Something like that, yeah.
After the shooter sevens out, everyone runs around the pit. First one to sit in the chair gets
that would
to be shooter.
Don't you just go in order? No, we actually have a free for all. It's a little more exciting.
It's a lot more exciting that way.
Yeah. So sometimes people get hurt, but you know we have them sign a waiver beforehand. Yeah.
Right. It's craps.
All right. Next up is our good friend Kevin.
Gentlemen. Kevin in Wisconsin with a trip report from 2 casinos in Canada and a third in Christmas, Michigan. Yes, Christmas, like the holiday. Wife and I took the circle tour around Lake Superior, and I would highly recommend, but really not for the casinos. It's a sightseeing tour. With that said, here are the highlights and lowlights of the casinos in Canada. We went to Gateway Casino in Thunder Bay, Ontario, small, non-smoking, and a buffet, no real table games. All the slots surrounded a stadium gaming area with a variety of the automated table fare. We won a few bucks and left. We went to another Gateway Casino in Sault Ste. Marie, small, non-smoking, and similar setup to Thunder Bay. Quiet and non-smoking. The best part of both these casinos is they can convert your dollars to loonies. Final casino was Keewatin Casino in Christmas, Michigan. Full Santa statue out front and holiday lights everywhere inside. Smoking was allowed, but few smoked. And my goodness, this was the quietest casino I've ever been in. It was about the same size as the other two, and if it wasn't for a group of guys yelling at the Wheel of Fortune machine, I would have started looking for the confessional and the holy water. In Canada, for listeners who've never been, the locals are really nice. They use great words like yous, as in, what are yous doing after this? And yous want me to take your picture? Most sentences, as many know, are ended with the word a, like, it's a good day out today, eh? Milk is sold in bags, and if you want a bartender to get you a Coors Light, they're likely to call out for the barback to bring in the imports. Anyway, no real success at the casino, still a fun trip, and the best part, at the time, every U.S. dollar was worth $1.33 Canadian. On to the next call, eh? Later.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, Keewatin Casino, that sounds like something up your alley.
Yeah, but the 2 Gateway casinos, Mark, I've actually been there.
In Ontario?
Yeah.
Really?
Thunder Bay, Ontario. Yeah, when we go fishing, we go right through Thunder Bay.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you, 2 things you got to do when you're in Thunder Bay. One is go to the Kentucky Fried Chicken there. It's excellent. And the second thing in Thunder Bay is, stand outside in the middle of summer for about 5 minutes if you want to get a mouthful of mosquitoes.
Oh, okay.
Mark, they're so thick there. But Thunder Bay is pretty. Just a little bit north of there in Ontario is where we go fishing. It's very, very pretty.
Okay. So you've been up in that area. You haven't actually been into those casinos.
I haven't been in the
okay.
casinos because I knew there was no craps or anything. It was all just slots. And
all right.
Wasn't really interested, and they're small.
So what is it about the KFC in Thunder Bay that sets it apart from any other KFC you'd go to?
Well, after you've been in the woods for a week without a bath or shower or hot water or anything, that KFC tastes damn good.
Okay, I got you. So it's situational, I guess, is what you're saying. It's so very good. All right.
But yeah, I've been to those places. Funny that Kevin, I'll have to talk to him about that. Right. It is beautiful up there on Lake Superior. Is beautiful.
Yeah. Speaking of Kevin, now he and his wife, they typically go to Diamond Joe Dubuque, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Diamond Joe Dubuque.
And on a previous episode, when you were talking about how you had gone to Diamond Joe Dubuque, I think you said you'd probably go there once a month, maybe something like that.
Once in a while.
Yeah. How many times have you been then since then, Dr. Mike?
Well, I haven't, Mark.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I have a legitimate excuse.
All right, sir.
Between here and there, they're doing a lot of road construction.
All right.
And it's a nightmare.
Okay. All right.
I mean, and anyone who lives around there will tell you, yeah, it's a nightmare getting there. So that construction gets done. I would like to go there. I like the way their tables are set up for craps. There's tons of room.
All right. I'll let you slide on this one.
All right. I'm gonna get back down there. Lynn's got a cousin lives right there in Dubuque.
Okay. All right. Next call.
Hey guys, it's Rev Dan from Tulsa. I called a few weeks ago to give you a trip report from the M Resort, and I had a couple other stories and questions I wanted to ask, but I had hit my time limit and didn't want to get a lifetime ban from Mark, so I thought I would call back. Just two quick things. I was playing Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and there was a bonus bet that the dealer began to pay out for me mistakenly. And I was just watching him to see if he would correct it. And before he picked up my cards, I was going to point it out to him. But before I had the chance to do that, a player on the corner jumped in and said, no, you can't pay that. That's not a winner. And I just wondered what y'all's take on that was, to speak up on behalf of somebody else being paid out a bet, even though I shouldn't have been paid it. I felt like that was out of line by the guy. But then as we kept playing, I could tell he seemed to know the dealer pretty well. He seemed like a regular. And so I just wonder if that maybe factored in, if that would factor in for you all, like if you were really good friends with the dealer and you didn't want him to get in trouble, would you speak up even though he was mistakenly paying out somebody else's bet? Just curious your thoughts on that. The other interesting thing that happened was the last morning. I had been kind of collecting chips over the 2 days that we were there. And even though I would have chips in my pocket, I'd sit down at a new table and pull out more cash. And so cashing out on the last morning, I wasn't a ton, maybe a little over $2,000 worth of chips. And the lady asked me what I was playing to win those chips. And I had never been asked that before. Normally they just pay it out. And I said, I played a whole handful of games. And she kind of looked at me and I went on to say, well, this is winnings from over the last 2 days, not just this morning. And then she got on the phone for 10 or 15 seconds and then she hung up the phone and she paid me out. And I just thought that was really bizarre and wondered what might be going on there. Which led me to wonder, at what point are there tax implications when you're cashing out chips? I know there's pretty standard rules on slot winnings, but wondered if there are set rules when it comes to chips. And same goes for just maybe winning a large bonus payout on a table game. At what point do they give you tax paperwork versus just paying out and not worrying about it? Anyway, those were a few of my questions, and really appreciate you guys and the show, and hope you have a great day.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, let's go back to that situation at the Ultimate Texas Hold'em table. Certainly, Dr. Mike, you and I would not call attention to a mistake that the dealer was making that resulted in another player being paid more than they deserve.
Even if it was, my best friend dealing or something.
What if it were me dealing, Dr. Mike? What if it were me? Would you say something in that case? It's like my job.
I wouldn't. No.
Okay.
I probably still wouldn't say anything. Afterwards, I'd say, you're probably not going to lose your job for that.
Yeah.
Unless the payout was super, the guy just bet, 500,000. Yeah, I'm going to say something. But if it's a $25 bet, I don't think I'd say anything.
Yeah.
All you can get out of that is trouble. The other person get really upset.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say anything. It's the casino's responsibility. It's the dealer's responsibility. It's the pit boss. It's the eye in the sky, that kind of thing. So, no, I wouldn't get involved either. People who do speak up in that situation, you might get mad at them, but we've all got different personalities. And I know there's a bit of my personality where when I see something going wrong, my knee-jerk reaction is to immediately call attention to it. So I kind of have to, fight that in situations like that. So,
I think most people have that because in your head, you're thinking, wait a minute, that's not right.
Yeah, something's wrong
something out.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about taxes and cashing in chips, that kind of thing.
I have had that happen to me quite a bit.
Where they call
after a big win.
Oh, yeah.
They go up, what game were you playing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Craps. What pit? What table? Mm-hmm. They usually call, they'll say, did you just color a guy up for $20,000 or something?
Right.
Oh, yeah, this is his name. I understand why they do that. A couple of places, Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, they at a point, and I don't know if they still do this, if you cashed out with a certain amount of money, they would write a little slip for you to carry to the cashier.
Yeah, at the table when they colored you up. Yeah.
Right, signing their name on it. And I think that was because it's so loud in there, when the cage called or something, they wouldn't hear, right?
Yeah.
And it might take forever. So to expedite things, they just give you a little slip of paper with their signature on it saying, yeah, this guy won that money. And I understand that because, they're worried about whatever. But then the next question after that is usually, what's your social security number? Can you write it down on this piece of paper for me?
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Now, first of all, whether or not they make a phone call is going to depend on the amount and the casino.
Correct.
Right. Obviously, so the higher end casino, you could probably go up there with more money and they wouldn't make a call. But again, that's going to depend. Okay, so let's continue the conversation. There are no tax implications when you cash out chips. However, if your transaction is for $10,000 or more in cash, they are required to fill out a currency transaction report, a CTR, for the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN. Now, this form assists FinCEN in uncovering money laundering and other illegal financial activities. Yes, you will need to provide identification and maybe a social security number, some kind of tax ID.
Right.
Now, even though FinCEN is a part of the IRS, this CTR is not used by the IRS for your income tax filing. Okay, so when I said there are no tax implications, I meant it. It's just that maybe they're going to have to fill out a CTR.
Right.
Okay. Now, when it comes to table games, the only time you'll receive a tax form, specifically a W-2G, is when you win a bet that pays at least $600 and whose payout was at least 300 times the initial bet. So that's not going to happen for any of the traditional table games bets.
Right.
Blackjack pays 3-2 or whatever. Even at craps, the highest payout is 30-1. This is only going to happen with certain side bets. And the fire bet in craps is a good example. Let's say you have $1 on the fire bet and the shooter hits all 6 numbers. Well, the payout is $999-1, and you win $999. So both requirements for a W-2G are met, and they'll fill out the form for you. But the key is that they will not fill out a tax form for normal winnings on table games, regardless of the dollar amount. You can make a $10,000 bet on blackjack, and if it wins, you won $10,000, but they don't fill out a tax form because it doesn't meet those 2 requirements for a W-2G.
Yeah, and a nice thing about if you do win a side bet, they fill out that form right there and give it to you right at the table.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to go with the cashier or wait around or anything.
Right.
The pit will just fill it out and hand it to you, and the other half gets sent to the IRS. It's one of those things where I guess they have to keep track of stuff, so that's why they do those CTR forms.
I remember once, Mike, this kind of surprised me. So when you hit the $10,000 mark, That's when it triggers a CTR. And I remember a few years back, Mike, you and I were staying at Wynn or Encore. I can't remember which one specifically, but we played there mostly. And every time I would buy into the craps table, I'd buy in for $500. Well, I must have done that at least 20 times over the course of the trip. And that 20th time, they asked me for my Social Security number because in their mind, that triggered a CTR. The fact that I had put out $500 cash 20 times. That kind of surprised me. That's the only time that's ever happened to me like that.
Yeah,
where it
and
wasn't
the bizarre
a one-time
thing about that is it's the same 500, right?
Yeah.
You buy in for 500 and say you walk away the table with 700. Well, you get a little later, you go to another table. You're using the same 500 again.
Yeah.
It's not like you brought 10,000 in cash.
I certainly did not.
Doling it out at 500 a table. So the rules, I understand they're trying to catch illegal acts that may occur, but the rules are so convoluted and so ridiculous. Who really thought of all this stuff?
Now, again, I'm not going to answer your question, okay? Because, it's probably rhetorical, number one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, it is. And it's stupid because nobody in their right mind would come up with these rules.
But again, a CTR, if they do fill one out for you, that does not affect the taxes that are reported to the IRS. Pay your taxes. But the IRS is not going to get notification that you owe any taxes just because a CTR was filled out. Okay.
I think slot people really get screwed.
Oh, they absolutely do, Dr. Mike. This $1,200 limit for
$1,200,
it's ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Yep. All right. Well, we try to keep politics out of it, but that definitely is too low. Oh, and here's another call that has to do with politics. Here we go.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Dr. Mike. It's Frank from the SF Bay Area. Here in California, there's a bit of a war going on between the tribal casinos and the card rooms, and I think it might be coming to a head because currently, right now, the state legislature is looking at a bill that could give the tribes a 3-month window to sue the card rooms over their use of regular table games like blackjack and baccarat, things like that. As we all know, they have like somewhat of a loophole around it where they're player banked and not house banked. So I guess they will give the tribal casinos a chance to sue. Now, this was actually part of Prop 26, I think it was, last year, which didn't pass. And I guess part of this was written in it, but most of it was because of the sports betting option, so it didn't get a lot of media coverage. And they say that even with this lawsuit possibly happening, that it could take somewhere between 4 and 10 years for a final verdict, because this could go all the way to the Supreme Court, for all we know. So it's kind of a big thing, and the card rooms are worried because it said it might put them out of business, but the tribal casinos are saying, well, we have most gambling jurisdiction here in the state. So it's really an interesting thing to look at. I was just wondering what your guys' opinion is on that. Like, how do you think it could affect the gaming industry here in the state of California? I love the show. You guys do a great job. Thanks for taking my call. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Thanks, Frank. Yeah, so the tribal casinos, they basically want a monopoly on casino gambling in California. And these card rooms have kind of found a loophole in the law that allows them to offer table games as long as they're not banking those games, as long as there's a player who is banking the games. And then the casino just takes a commission, basically, and ante. And so the tribal casinos are saying, oh, hey, this is not the spirit of the law. It's not the intent of the law. They're kind of, working their way around to get past it. I think that's pretty hypocritical on the part of the tribal casinos because that's what they're doing when it comes to craps. They're getting around the law of craps. The spirit, the intent of the law is, you shouldn't be able to deal craps. But since the casinos are using cards, they've gotten around the law. So, like I said before, when it came to that sports betting, the tribal casinos don't care whether or not sports betting comes to California. What they care is if it does come to California, they want a monopoly on it. And that's the case here. These card rooms have been doing this for over 30 years, these player-banked games. This is not a new thing. But the casinos are really going after them hard right now. And Frank, you make a good point. This could go on for years. So I don't think it's going to have an immediate effect on gambling in California. If the tribe does win the lawsuit, Well, will it affect the card rooms? Yeah, maybe to a certain extent, but I think most of them will survive because they will still be able to deal poker.
Right.
And again, they're not making money on these table games, well, unless it's behind the scenes, and I'm not accusing anybody of that, but the only way
they're not supposed to be making.
Right, the only way they're making money is on this commission. They would make way more money if they could deal the games, but it's just the commission. Well, commission is all that they're taking on poker games as well. The rake.
Right.
So,
that pays for the overhead, right? You got to pay the employees. You got to pay the rent. You have to have some kind of commission. But once again, here's another example of it's okay for me to do something, not illegal, but, maybe a little.
If you're taking the law literally,
right,
you're not, breaking the law, but you're getting around the intent. Okay, anyway.
You're hitting the gray area.
We've said our piece. Let's move on to the next call.
Hey, Mark, Dr. Mike, Ryan from the Twin Cities area. Just wanted to give you guys a brief Vegas trip report that my buddy Neil and I took this past weekend. We got to the D on Friday night without any issue. Took Uber down there, no big deal. One thing we did notice, though, is there was literally no one in line for the cabs at what I will always call McCarran Airport. It might be something to consider next time. Checking at the D was easy as always. We were offered a room on any floor between the 8th and 24th floors. Without hesitation, I took the 24th floor as I knew higher up is always going to be better when you're staying on Fremont Street. This proved to be very valuable as we did have limited noise, even though our windows and room did overlook one of the stages on Fremont Street. That night, we just kind of wandered around downtown Fremont Street, nothing exciting. We did check out Downtown Grand. They did have $5 craps table. It was full. Played for a little bit while I dabbled in some VP. We both lost and then continued on to Main Street Station, circa Fremont, California. Nothing overall too exciting there. However, we did get to finally eat at 8 East. And while there, we did have the opportunity to meet up with Tim Austin from The Better Life. Chatted with him a little bit in between his Bet Fast schedule. So that was great.
The trip was going so good.
Or next morning, I should say, we woke up, breakfast at Bacon Nation at the D. That's definitely a great addition to this property. And the French toast box was incredible. Already looking to returning on my next trip there. Really want to try that reverse BLT everybody's been raving about. The real reason we stay at the D is the cheap hotel rates while still being able to get into Stadium Swim for free. There was no better way to enjoy the 105-degree weather that we experienced and sitting by the pool and jumping in every once in a while. After this, we opted to return to Downtown Grand, play some $5 craps. One thing that did surprise me about Downtown Grand is they do offer $5 roulette, and I was fully expecting 000 for all those extra ways to win, but they just had a 00. I don't know what's going on there. We enjoyed Pizza Rock for dinner, and then back to the D to play some video poker at Bar Canada and the View Bar. Unfortunately, neither one of these did provide any profit, but we did have a session with 360 Vegas Mark, who joined us for a little bit. First time hanging out with him, and we had a ball. Bartenders at View Bar definitely took care of us with loading us up with a lot of free drinks. I'll call back with days 3 and 4, as well as another story that I want to share. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Good. Yeah, just poking Tim a little bit there.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to hold off on Ryan's follow-up calls until the next episode because we're going a little long here. But yeah, he called back with some more stuff. So we'll hear from him again on the next episode. That's interesting that there was no cab line at the airport.
Yeah.
I've been there before when it's a huge line, right? Just like crazy. Yeah. So maybe ride sharing is kind of taking over. And if you want something quick, maybe a cab is the way to go again. We'll see. Hey, Mike, I finally got an online store up for those T-shirts that you had made.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we've got a You Can Bet on That store. If you go to our website, youcanbetonthat.com, up towards the top of the page, it'll say You Can Bet on That store. Click on that, and right now, all we've got is a couple of different T-shirts, but if all goes well, we will add more products to that. So, Mike, you're actually in charge of the merchandise, and you'll be in charge of sending stuff out. I'll just be in charge of the website itself. So let me know.
Letting me know when stuff needs to be sent.
So,
and, if somebody needs a triple X or whatever and I don't have it, I'll order one, and
let us know.
Might take a few weeks, but I'll be able to get it for you.
Yeah. So, well, that's going to do it for this episode. Hey, we want to thank some people for some recurring donations. Robin over at Anytime Gambling, Nathan, Brian Dancer, and Brian and Sarah. Thank you very much for those recurring donations. We also got a donation from listener Nicholas. Karma donation for upcoming Vegas trip. Great show. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you very much, Nicholas, and good luck on your trip. And we also got a donation from listener Kurt. He sends us recurring donations, but this was an additional one. Karma donation from Kurt and the Bear for our first trip since COVID to Vegas in September. Love the show, guys. You're going to have a great time finally getting back there. Well, good luck on that trip, Kurt. Hey, be sure to check out our TV listings showing all the gambling-related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks at youcanbetonThat.com/TV-listings and our list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonThat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at YouCanBetOnThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/YouCanBetOnThat. I'm having trouble getting through all that. It's so humid down here in our little basement area right now.
I bet.
That's the other thing with this storm, just even inside the humidity. Finally, please go to your favorite podcast app and write a review of the show. We love getting your feedback. What do you got for us, Dr. Mike?
Well, Mark, I've been thinking a lot about the San Diego Padres lately.
Oh, you have? I stopped thinking about them, especially after the doubleheader yesterday.
Yes. Oh, my God. And although I'll always be a Padre fan my whole life because, they're my team, but I'm going to take Beard Guy's approach from now on.
Okay.
And just, they've got issues. I'll let them deal with it, and I'll just enjoy napping during the games.
There you go. We've all had issues before. The Padres are no exception.
No. Lynn says all the time, "Are you watching the game or sleeping?" And I'm like, well, it's kind of both.
Yeah.
Just
why do you
a
care?
little more sleeping now than watching.
Right,
oh, my God.
Yeah,
Talk about a disappointment in a team with so much talent.
Yeah, very disappointing.
I'm going to go out on a record here. And if anyone can clarify this for me, I'd appreciate it. But I'm going to say they're the team in Major League Baseball that has hit most balls to the wall that have been caught. It seems like every time they have a long fly ball, it's right at the wall and gets caught. Sometimes it's a home run. Sometimes it doesn't make the warning track. But more often than not, they catch it right on the wall. I mean, that's how close they are to having a great year versus, this year.
All right. I'm guessing that it probably isn't true, and you're just basing that on your own experience. But I feel your pain.
No, I think it's true.
All right.
I mean, it may not be, but it's what I'm going to believe.
I can't prove it's wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, depressing year. I'm glad football's starting.
Yeah, here it comes.
And I hope our football wagers do well.
Yeah. Better than our baseball wagers. Sorry about that, Dr. Mike. I know it's been pretty rough lately.
You had a
fault.
huge, good streak.
I know.
And the year was going pretty well, and then it just kind of went down.
Terrible.
But it's not your fault. It's baseball in general.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mike, for letting me off there. All right. We hope to see everybody at the tournament. Thanks for listening.
Yes. Thanks.
Mark, that was wonderful. I had no idea you were so talented. The audience is going to love you.